Don't touch that dial, everybody, because it is the Joe and Joe Weather Show. I was waiting. I had an extra few minutes on my hands. I went into the video settings and I just played around with it. And they had this as one of the choices. I also have to mute my phone because I can actually now watch the show since I got a new phone, so it behaves itself. Okay, so welcome everybody to the Joe and Joe Weather Show on this Monday night, the 30th of August. We've got one more day left in this interesting month because, after all, we've got 6 named tropical systems, 2 more getting out of the way in terms of the names. So the next one, which is coming off the African coast now and looks like a well-developed wave, is going to probably get the L name. So we will be waiting for that. The Joe and Joe Weather Show brought to you by Omni True Value Hardware at 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, New York. And the hold on, trying to do 3 things at once here. The telephone number is 631-756-1125. And the website is omnitruevalue.com. And also, hold on, brought to you by Wholesale Holiday Lighting by Giannini, your complete holiday lighting specialist, meeting all your decorating needs. Whether you want your home decorated for the holidays, and Halloween is coming up, and then the Christmas, Hanukkah holidays to follow, or you might want to decorate your neighbor's house. They're at 162 Ocean Avenue in Lindenhurst, New York, and their phone number is 631-957-5106, and the website is liholidaylighting.com. All right, so let me get this. Let's go to, oh boy, oh, here we go, background, and yeah. Let me go back to something normal. Okay, there we go. So anyhow, Ida is going to be there have been 9 ice storms, Joe, that have been retired. Ida will definitely be the 10th. No question.
No question about it. Yeah, no question. I was watching this morning, they were doing some interviews with people who lost their homes or were flooded out or have no power or anything. And they asked this one guy, so are you going to move now? And the guy says, no. He said, in 2 years, it'll be back bigger and better than ever. It being, I suppose, the city or the community that he lived in or whatever. And that, I guess, is how a lot of people who live down in Louisiana and adjacent Mississippi feel. These storms come, they go, but in the aftermath, the areas turn out to be, even better than they were before. So what can I say?
And they rebuild, but I guarantee you that the insurance, the homeowners insurance, is going up, and they all have hurricane deductibles now. So the first 10% of the value of your home is on you. Well, what are you going to do? I mean, this is just the way it is. But the damage that I saw, and by the way, I would wait another day or so before you really get a full feel for some of the damage that's down near the coast, because that's all swampland and bayou country. If it's flooded out, it's very difficult to get to or very difficult to get out of. And I'm sure once they get in there, they're going to probably see some pretty interesting damage profiles with regards to what happened when it made landfall yesterday near Port Fourchon. So sad. New Orleans got hit very hard with with wind and of course the heavy rains. The WPC did a great job with it. Well, they had 10 to 15. I only have the rainfall through this morning, but they pretty much hit that 10 to 15 inch rainfall amount that they put up on their maps, and I'll bring that up in just a bit.
It's pretty amazing that that all that has happened down there, and still they make comparisons between. I saw, and I did not get a chance to read it fully, but on AOL they had a column or an article comparing Katrina to Ida, and pick your poison. I mean, depending upon how you look at things, Katrina may have been bad and or worse in some cases than Ida. Ida may have been worse. All I know is that tonight the city of New Orleans is totally dark. There are over a million people or a million customers that are without power in New Orleans, and they said, Joe, it may be weeks before the city is fully restored. And try to understand, folks, that, and Joe could attest to this. I mean, at this time of the year, almost every day, it's like 90, 92 degrees with dew points in the 70s. How do you possibly put up with that, even after a couple of days? I mean, Joe, it's I don't know. I don't know what to say.
Listen, I can tell you from experience there. You from the time you leave your front door to you walk to your car to leave for work, you need to take another shower. I mean, that's just reality. And you sweat so much that you wind up soaking your sneakers, and you're leaving footprints from your own sweat that is dripping down to the balls of your feet. I mean, it's just. And then you could watch it on the pavement evaporate right in front of you, which is even more astounding. I mean, this is very difficult. And as far as energy is concerned, it's all electric there. Everything is electric because you can't have oil tanks buried in the ground. You don't have a lot of natural gas. Everything there runs off the electric grid, and the pumps that pump the water out. The good news is that the levees, which busted with Katrina because they weren't built correctly. When they rebuilt them, they built them correctly, and the levees held. So it's a pretty good indicator that if you get a storm like this, the fifth strongest storm ever to hit landfall in the U.S., you get a storm like this, if the levees can hold this, because you really can't get much. I mean, in theory, you could get a stronger storm, but this was such a high-end Category 4, it's going to be awfully hard to top that. I mean, probably maybe once every 100 years you'll get a Category 5 that comes crashing into the same place. So I'm thinking that they could feel pretty good, at least about the fact that the levees aren't going to flood the entire city of New Orleans and the surrounding parishes like it did the last time.
And you think with a contrast, I mean, you think about Texas and what they went through during the ice storms that they had, the frigid weather they had back over the wintertime, going without electricity. And now here you are 6 months later, and now we have the electricity down in a different state, an adjacent state. But once again, we have millions of people that are being adversely influenced because of the inability of, I mean, we hear it all the time, even up here, Joe, after prolonged power outages, why don't you put those stupid cables underground? And of course, then comes the electric company back and saying it's cost restrictive. We just can't, it would cost too much to do that. And so what you do is you put up with, they don't happen every day and they don't happen every year, thankfully, but every so often you just know that when you see a storm like this heading your way, you just know that you're going to have to suffer for a while.
Well, Pete, listen, PG&E in California for years said that running because of the wildfires being started by power lines, saying that it was cost prohibitive to put the wires underground. Well, guess what? This year, back a few months ago, they announced that they are going to be they're going to spend, I don't know, it was like was it $20 billion or whatever it was, to do the work statewide of getting all those cables underground. So I guess you just have to get to a point where you push to the edge. It's a little tough in New Orleans because of the water table, because that's an issue. You're putting wires underground in an area where it's below sea level. So I would think they'd have to do some special stuff to that. I don't know. I'm just kind of, talking off the top of my head here. But Ida now is inland, obviously, and moving along. And I have to tell you, I'm pretty impressed here by the signature on the satellite that it has maintained now that it is well inland. Look at that comma shape circulation on the enhanced. Of course, the first few frames there are the visibles. The structure here still remains in the actual structure, the upper air structure of this remains intact. And it's gonna be very interesting to see as that starts to, you can see which direction that it's moving. It's moving to the northeast. It's gonna be interesting to see if it holds that structure all the way through, because that could be key in terms of how much rain falls in that, that whole zone of flash flood watches that the Weather Service has, pretty much up and down the eastern seaboard. I had the map up. I'll bring it up separately. That was from earlier today because they've expanded the flash flood watches. But you can see it here all along the path, along and north of the track is where you're going to see the heaviest rains. You've got flash flood watches in Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, western North Carolina, northwest Georgia, most of Kentucky, all of West Virginia, small portion of southeast Ohio, western Virginia, so just basically up I-81, and a good chunk of Pennsylvania, all of New Jersey, the Hudson Valley, the Catskills, southern New England, Long Island, New York City. Joe, I kind of went for at least 2 to 4 inches of rain and maybe some locally higher amounts than that.
Same here, Joe. And in fact, as I said on my Facebook pages, depending upon where you are relative to the actual path of the storm, if you're north of the storm, then look for at least 6 to 12 hours of moderate to heavy rain mixed in with perhaps a rumble or two of thunder. South of the storm track, I think it's going to be a bit more problematic. I think what we're going to be looking at there are showery rains. In other words, on and off periods of rain, which will come in varying intensities, but a better chance of convection, a better chance of seeing thunderstorms, which could very well spawn a few very strong wind gusts, damaging wind gusts, and maybe even an isolated tornado or two. So pick your poison. You have that chance of seeing or encountering gusty winds and possible damaging winds, and maybe even an isolated funnel cloud or tornado if you're south of the path, or you're just going to have to deal with a long-term stretch of moderate to heavy rain, flooding, and all kinds of mayhem that'll be going on with the passage of the storm. I think the storm will be making its closest approach. I did a map for my Facebook folks, and
which you may share if you'd like.
I could do that. What I'm thinking of is that the closest approach of the remnant of Ida will come by around 8 in the morning to New York City on Thursday, and then I think it's going to really pick up speed, not intensity, but pick up speed, and it'll be in and through and out. And I could see that by Thursday afternoon, Joe, we'll see a dramatic drop both in the dew points. We should be seeing, I think, the end of the precipitation on Thursday. Skies may begin to clear by later Thursday, and that should set the stage for some pretty nice weather for Thursday night, Friday, on into the start of boo-hoo, the last of the big 3 holiday weekends of summer, the Labor Day holiday weekend, which is headed our way for Saturday, Sunday, and Monday.
Want to give a big welcome to new viewers that are on tonight. Welcome to the Joe and Joe Weather Show. We are mostly a nightly affair on most days during the week and Sunday mornings as well. And if you like our show or if you're enjoying it, do please hit the like button and subscribe to my YouTube channel. So that's the end of my little hawking exercise. I want to also point out on the U.S. watches and warnings map, which I had up and I'm going to bring up again. You also have flash flood. It's interesting because we have the remnants of 2 tropical systems here in play, one in the east and one in the west. Of course, Ida in the east, and in the west, Nora, which was a hurricane and now is gone. But all that moisture is pouring into the southwestern part of the United States, and the entire state of Arizona and the southern half of Utah under flash flood watches. Maybe even a few counties in the southern corner of California there in the deserts also under flash flood watches with respect to Nora. And you can see some of that moisture here. It's a little, the core circulation of Nora seems to be gone, but the convection a lot of the tropical moisture is certainly evident there. And you're seeing how the thunderstorms are starting to develop there in parts of Arizona and into Nevada and down up over into Mexico. So that moisture is going to be moving up there for the next couple of days. And they've had, as dry as it usually is out there to begin with, but they've had severe drought conditions in a lot of the Southwest. So I'm sure much of that is welcomed. And we'll check out the radar. You can see what's going on in the Southwest. Meanwhile, here's Ida with heavy rains in northern Mississippi, northern Alabama. There still see some feeder bands that extend down into the Gulf of Mexico. A few special marine warnings popping up, some flash flood warnings that are up as well as you see those green boxes in Mississippi. Some heavy rains have already moved up into Tennessee and Kentucky, seeing some flash flood warnings there. And we're also seeing them pushed up. Well, now there's some activity going on that's separate from Ida, but producing some showers and storms in Missouri, south of St. Louis, southern Illinois, southern Indiana. And really quick, we had a relatively active radar locally late this afternoon and this evening. Saw some pretty big cells developed quickly in parts of central coastal New Jersey, and as fast as they came, they disappeared. But I did see something about some people getting struck by lightning on the Jersey Shore and Seaside Park, so we hope they're okay. And meanwhile, up to the north, Joe, just north of you, there's this narrow line of showers and storms well north of 84. That's the cold front that we're waiting to come through, and once again, because of how the troughs are lining up in the United States, that trough stalls out and stalls out just to our south or virtually overhead or just to our south. And Ida's remnant low is going to ride that front all the way up.
Absolutely. And it's going to take its path right into our area. I think I'm on the shared screen right now, or
okay.
at least
Hold on. Let's see. And yes, you are. Go for it.
And here's I did this based upon consensus from three different guidance models: the GFS, the European, and the 12-kilometer NAM. Now, the thing I should note, however, is that the NAM and the GFS were noticeably more north than the European. In fact, the European was taking it down here across the Delmarva area, it looked like, whereas the GFS and the 12-kilometer NAM were a bit further north up toward New York City. Meanwhile, the Canadian model, which I did not input into this consensus, or the 3-kilometer NAM were noticeably further to the south. And in fact, if you followed the Canadian global model, they didn't really bring all that much in the way of rain. They took it mostly south of New York City. So I kind of discounted that or discarded that. This is what I came up with for a consensus between, again, the three models: the 12-kilometer NAM, the European, and the GFS, taking it on an east-northeast trajectory, taking us closer to us by about 8 a.m. on Thursday, and then rocketing it or moving it more rapidly to the northeast, past Cape Cod probably by midday, and then on up to south of Nova Scotia by 8 p.m. on Thursday. This is about the time when it passes us, where that upper level trough kind of latches onto it and kind of punts it, if you will, or boots it to the north and east. And behind that trough, and we've been promoting this now for a good many days, behind that trough, a lovely flow of northwesterly winds, which are going to go all the way down, even as far south as your zone, Joe, down into Georgia.
Yes.
And that's gonna usher in a lovely flow of low dew point temperatures, much drier air, and after all the rain that we're going to see here Wednesday night and early Thursday, probably it's really going to cleanse the atmosphere and make for probably a rather blue sky when you consider all the days so far we've had this summer where it's been hazy or smazy or smoky or whatever. It really should look like a lovely sky here on Friday. Temps in the 70s, rising back up to near 80 over the weekend. So it looks like this upcoming holiday weekend will be A-OK. But of course, the price we must pay for that will be. And I think right between here and here, 8 p.m. on Wednesday evening to 8 a.m. on Thursday, that's about the time frame where I think we're going to see the rains really coming on down hard, moderate to heavy, and that will lead to flooding. 2 to 4 inches, certainly. I agree with you, Joe. There may be some spots that may pick up even more than that, maybe 5, or dare I say, maybe even 6 inches, not out of the question. But below this path, down across the Delmarva, South Jersey, we may be seeing, and I noticed that on the Storm Prediction Center, they had a marginal risk of severe weather here. By the way, it was interesting. The day started with marginal risk confined to New England, and then they kind of opened that up to include our area as well. Never really did see anything significant or major in terms of severe weather, although there were a few heavy storms here and there. But I think that south of this line, maybe from central Virginia into southern Maryland, most of Delaware, South Jersey, they're going to be on the watch for possible severe weather as this remnant of Ida passes on by Wednesday night into early on Thursday.
Yeah, the track here is really important because of the fact that the heaviest rain is going to fall just north of the track. Should point out, Joe, we'll bring it up shortly once you unshare. There we go. The 18Z GFS actually came down a little further south. It kind of matches up fairly well with the European. I thought the European was interesting in a couple of other respects in terms of how it structures this. And I brought up that signature on the satellite at the beginning of the program tonight because when you look at the isobars on the other models, it looks more like a frontal wave. But then when you look at the European, it's got a much more circular look to the isobar structure. So I think the European is kind of implying that, and the GFS at 18Z actually is a little bit more like the European in terms of the structure of the isobars, where it's kind of implying that strong, that signature, that tropical swirl that we're seeing on the satellites from the remnant low may stay mostly intact as it moves to the northeast. Perhaps it's getting a little bit of juice from the upper trough swinging around from the north, maybe a little baroclinicity getting involved. I don't think that's I don't think that's unreasonable. I got the forecast tracks from 18Z here on the hurricane tracking models. I have to switch back to find the other ones because now that they downgraded it, so then they gets a new title, so you have to get the new link for it. But it's kind of funny because the tracks do diverge a little as it approaches to the coast, and the northernmost track now takes it right along the south shore of Long Island. But the rest of them all go southern New Jersey, Delaware, and then out to the east-northeast. So I think that's pretty interesting that the hurricane tracking models are also showing a little bit more of a southern route. And if that happens, I think there's a very good chance that those 2 to 4 inch rainfall amounts we're forecasting are going to verify, and that there probably will be some areas that will get a bit more than that.
Well, I have something else to show you here. Back on share screen here.
Back to
this
you.
Is the NAM. This is the NAM 12 kilometer, but this is the FGen showing the area of omega or atmospheric energy. And I want to show you what this model is doing. This is Wednesday morning. This is 11 o'clock Wednesday late morning. This is 2 o'clock. Now look at all of this. This all here is omega. This is the area of atmospheric energy. And look how thickly it's clustered. So thick, in fact, that you can't even make out the individual lines. Now we continue to move up into 21Z Wednesday. Now we're up to 0Z on Thursday. So now here we are, 8 o'clock on Wednesday evening, and the whole region is just splattered with all of this atmospheric energy. But that's only the beginning, folks. Look at this. This is 11 o'clock on Wednesday evening, 2 a.m. My goodness, Joe, if this verifies, it's going to be more than just a couple of rumbles of thunder, I think, here. And look at all of that energy that may translate. But look at also, this is 5 a.m. on Thursday morning, and all of this stuff is already lifting away to the north and east. The worst of it, if you want to, go at face value, the worst of it would probably be sometime between, let's say 11 o'clock to about 5 in the morning, 11 o'clock on Wednesday evening to 5 a.m. on Thursday morning. And then beyond that, look at that, how quickly it lifts. This is 8 a.m. on Thursday. All the good stuff is now moved up, out, and away. There's a secondary shot here, a secondary little wave. So maybe we'll have another round of scattered showers along about mid-morning. But then after that goes, that's pretty much it. That's all she wrote.
Pull up the GFS FGen, just out of curiosity, because of the fact that it's a little further south.
Okay, hang
on the 18Z.
We'll do that. Global GFS. So now let's see. But you got to understand also, and we've seen this before, the GFS FGen is never, ever as energetic or as robust as what the NAM shows. But this is pretty good. Look at that, Joe.
Mm-hmm.
That's 2 a.m. on Thursday morning, and this is now 8 a.m. and then it's out. So I think to say that the worst of this is going to be in the pre-dawn hours of Thursday morning, and that when many people wake up, let's say around 8 or 9 a.m. Well, some of you have to go to work. You're not all retired like Joe and I are, but 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock in the morning, it should be pretty well over. Everything, the worst of it should be behind us, and that we should be going into an improving weather pattern during the course of the day. And Joe, look at this. Did you take note of this? This is the zero line on the. This is the zero. Well, this is at 700.
Rain changing to snow before ending.
No, that's not it. But 7. But I mean, like, if you want to see where the 850 FGen zero line is, let's just see out of curiosity. It's not even there, but this red line would be what? This would be +3, I guess.
So
I guess maybe zero would be up here somewhere. But what it tells you is A, turning cooler, B, turning drier, C, turning much less humid. All of that coming on the heels of this big shot of rain or showery rains late Wednesday into the very beginning of Thursday, for your edification.
Okay, so while I'm going through I'm going to go through a couple of maps here and eventually find our way to the models. Can you still get the 18Z European?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so
yes, I can. Believe it or not, it's going to last me until. Well, supposedly it's supposed to last me until the end of tomorrow, but
all right. Well, we'll take advantage. All right, so
advantage.
pull that up, and in the meantime, I'm going to run through a few things here with respect to Ida and in terms of the rainfall. So let's first take a look. We'll go to WPC's forecast here for the next 7 days, but obviously all of this is front end loaded, and you can see the big patch of heavy rain. That is 4 or 5 inch rainfalls, northern West Virginia, much of southwest and south central Pennsylvania, tails off a little bit, but still every bit of 3 or 4 inches across northern New Jersey, eastern PA, over Long Island, and 2 or 3 inches going up. That's actually probably a little bit more for the Hudson Valley and southern New England, and then it starts to cut down once you get to about Albany, and then you get to an inch or less. And then, of course, you notice there's also a little breakdown in southern New Jersey down into Virginia. That's where it becomes more convective, as Joe pointed out, with the severe weather risk there and the low tracking the way it is. And on the close-up map, this was updated at 3:46 this afternoon. So this matches up with what they had on the what I just showed you, but you can get this off the Hurricane Center. And the yellow is 4 to 6 inches. So they've got that 4 to 6 inch area, northern West Virginia, across into northern New Jersey, and over into New York City, the lower Hudson Valley, southwest Connecticut, and the western half of Long Island. And the green is every bit of 2 to 4 inches, which surrounds it on either side. And you can see the structure here is just this sort of, this column that goes northeast, southwest, and then runs up into southern New England with 2 to 4 inch rains for Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and southeastern Mass. And then the amounts tail off in southern New Jersey. It's only 1 to 2 inches, and down to the southern part of the Delmarva Peninsula and into southern Virginia. And of course, let's not forget, because we still have rains going on, 2 to 4 inches with some possible 6-inch amounts. Now, this is in addition to whatever's fallen during the day today. So the numbers are kind of skewed a bit because the rainfall map totals that I'm showing you here that I just brought up, this is from as of 8 a.m. This morning. And that gray that you see over Lake Pontchartrain in southeast Louisiana, that's all 10 inches plus. And the purple is 6. So you're getting, you see where the big rains fell, and I'm sure we're going to have to add to that tally. So tomorrow morning's map will have all the precip in that was caused by Ida. And then, of course, we'll see what the impact that it had in Mississippi and Alabama and points northward, because what had fallen at least through 7 a.m. Some places got their first inch of rain. Most of that was probably lead stuff that was convective. So we'll get a better idea of what the final amount, the final totals are. We will get a fairly accurate look here at this time tomorrow. Now, with regards to what's going on, I've rolled out the upper air back to Saturday just to show you how these features all interact with each other. We had this big upper high sitting right along the North Carolina, South Carolina coast. Ida right there, the western periphery of that ridge extending into the middle Mississippi Valley. We were on the northern part of that ridge through the weekend. And then as we progressed through Saturday and Sunday, that ridge began to pivot a bit and weaken. And Ida moving on the periphery of that ridge into southeast Louisiana, turning north. And now look at what's going on. Pay attention to what's going on across the Great Lakes. Those heights are coming down. There's a northern feature that's coming in. And it's a fairly strong northern feature thanks to an upper low that's in eastern Canada. So it's basically overwhelming the Great Lakes and Northeast with a westerly flow, and Ida's getting picked up by that, and there's a couple of short waves that are embedded in that mess. So Ida, by Wednesday morning, is sort of merging here with that northern feature. This upper flow is going this way, but you've got troughing right in there, and that's the upper trough that represents Ida, and it just kind of slides underneath that the north there, at least initially, and then an arm comes down from the north and takes over, and there you see there's this upper low in northern Vermont by early Friday morning. That's bringing down that cool air, and the GFS is fairly aggressive with this upper trough. So is the European. So it's really showing. That's why Joe was able to show you that zero line, because the upper feature there is getting fairly deep, and it pivots, and then as Joe mentioned, it'll just punt the remaining low, gets punted well out to the northeast, and we can wave it goodbye. And I'm just looking, since I have it up, going through the weekend and into next week, Joe, that northwest flow is fairly dominant going into next week with another bit of a trough that swings through the Great Lakes and southeastern Canada along about Monday. So, it's going to be hard to warm things up and bring the humidity up. And then here comes another one as we head to later next week that swings in, although that somewhat weakens a bit as it approaches the coast. But the northern part of the jet stream has gotten active, and with the ridge gone, at least through next week, it's going to be pretty hard to see 90-degree weather up here.
Yeah, and it's what we said yesterday, and it's a pattern that we saw a lot of during June and into much of July, where these troughs would come on down every few days. There would be periods in between troughs where we'd get into warm, if not downright hot, and oppressive conditions. But we knew that such conditions were not going to last much longer than, let's say, 3 days or so, because everything was progressive. And the movement of air from Canada meant that we would be getting periodic breaks. And so we did. That whole pattern broke down during this month of August, which is why we have been dealing with seemingly day after day after day, if not heat, but oppressive humidity. That pattern will come to an end. It has taken Ida to break it. Ida rolling north and eastward, passing through our area, grabbing hold of that upper level trough. In fact, all of those troughs have been shearing off away to our north and not allowing any of that dry, cool, pleasant air to get in here. But now Ida's going to say, that's enough of that, and it's going to pull that next trough down and in and bring, again, a very delightful weather pattern for the weekend, the holiday weekend. And as Joe just mentioned, we now see a change back to the pattern that we saw during June and July, and that is a progressive pattern where every so often we will see these troughs penetrate and move on in and deliver some nice, dry, and pleasant air masses into our area. But of course, you'd expect that because come Wednesday, we're going to be into September, Joe.
Yeah. Yes. Amen. Now, here's what I was saying before about the European. You see how it has much more of a circular look to the isobars with that 96 low over the Delmarva Peninsula come Thursday morning? It seems to be saying that tropical signature is probably going to be very evident, which might be the reason why I didn't notice what the European was producing in terms of rainfall amounts today. I know I've got a couple of runs recently. It was producing some really, rather bullish rainfall amounts at the top end of the forecast ranges.
Well, you can see it. You can see it right now. I've got the 18Z up and ready whenever you want to
let's
display it or whatever.
Let's go to that.
And I'll tell you what, you're absolutely, it surprised me because I saw this somewhat more southerly track of the European versus some of the other models. And I said, oh, so now the European is going to take, and the European last week, if you remember, was more southerly and taking a lot of the heavy duty rains to our south. And I said, well, it looks like it's going to try to do that now, but it doesn't. It didn't do it at the 12Z run. Now let's take a look at the 18Z and see what it is going to transpire according to the latest outlook from the European. This is as of a little while ago, 8 p.m. on Monday. Here is 2 a.m. Tuesday, and here is 8 a.m. on Tuesday. Tomorrow, by the way, because of that weather front, that skinny line of showers just off to our north will move on through later tonight and put us for a day or so, not even a day or so, but at least a somewhat less humid airflow for the day tomorrow. So it'll be a little bit more comfortable tomorrow, or more tolerable tomorrow compared to today. Then we move on to 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. Here is 8 p.m. on Tuesday evening. So count on Tuesday being a dry day with at least partial sunshine. Now, let's move on to Wednesday. Already by 8 a.m. on Wednesday morning, you have the front end of Ida's rains moving across northern and central New Jersey and southern New Jersey, just about reaching the tri-state New York metropolitan area. So now, here we go. Now it's 2 o'clock on Wednesday afternoon. There's some rain, but nothing we can't handle. Then we get into 8 p.m. on Wednesday. Look at all of this. Now, this area of purplish white corresponds to 3 inches. So what the European is saying is that if you're in central Pennsylvania, you could expect maybe 3 inches of rain or so, let's say 2 to 4 inches, to fall within a matter of 6 hours over the central part of Pennsylvania. Here is the storm. You can see Joe pointing out the circular nature based upon the isobars. I suppose Ida is supposedly right about here over northeastern Virginia. So this is now, again, 8 p.m. on Wednesday. Now we move to 2 a.m. on Thursday morning, and now the storm is centered right here, right? It looks like it's right in, Chesapeake Bay? or
Yeah, that probably makes sense.
Right over Washington, Baltimore, let's say.
Really good southeast inflow there. I mean, that's really going to enhance the rain, and you see how it's all arced on the west side. That's why the track of this low is so important in terms of where the heaviest rains are going to fall.
Right, and the transition from red to purple indicates about 1 1/4 inches. There is not quite white, but that's probably about 2 1/2 inches here. So all of this,
and that, by the way, and that is in that 6 hour time frame.
Correct. That is going to be from 8 p.m. on Wednesday to 2 a.m. on Thursday morning. Now we're in the red, so we probably are seeing in that 6 hour time frame about an inch, if you take this at face value. Now we move to 8 a.m. on Thursday morning. Now look, first of all, look where the storm is. The storm, I suppose, Joe, I really can't. I see a little dot here. Let me
I
make sure
see
that's
the L. I mean, it's hard for me to see this. Let me see if I can.
this is
If I bring it up on a
no,
bigger frame, I can
look
make it out.
right there.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
Yeah,
right
that's
near
the
Cape May.
right. And there's all that heavy duty rain, probably 2 to 3 or maybe 2 to 4 inches, reaching up into the Hudson Valley. The area here of about a half an inch across just south of Long Island to about south central New Jersey. And now we move on to 2 o'clock on Thursday afternoon. Now, the one thing about the European compared to my consensus that I showed you earlier, if this is true, this is much slower because the storm now is only a little ways off the Jersey coast by 2 o'clock in the morning, although you could see that a lot of the heavy duty stuff is now finally by 2 p.m. lifting away to the north and east. And by 8 p.m., all right, the heavy duty stuff is gone now up into coastal Maine, adjacent sections of New Hampshire and northeastern Massachusetts. We still apparently have some lingering precipitation, maybe a few tenths of an inch into New York. And then finally by 2 a.m. Friday, we've got the storm now still showing that circular pattern off of Cape Cod. And finally, by 7 a.m., 8 a.m. on Friday, the storm is up here in down east Maine, still getting clobbered in this area right here. We are out of it, and I presume, will be into a clearing trend or maybe mainly clear by Friday morning. Although, again, this looks like a much slower pattern than compared to, let's say, some of the other models. So we'll see if that all transpires.
Well, it has been. It has been. It has been moving slowly since it's made landfall. I mean, it really has slowed down to a crawl overall. Now it'll start to move a little bit faster, but maybe the European is onto something in terms of the slower movement. So it'll get in a little later, but then it gets out a little later, and you still wind up with the same thing. The only thing I can kind of glean, at least from looking at the upper air on the European, is that it seems to me like it has. You see how it still has a closed upper low Wednesday morning in eastern Kentucky. Again, this goes back to what I was saying about how the European seems to be showing this as a much more identifiable feature in the upper air, holding on to that signature longer. You still can kind of see it here Thursday morning with the trough still west of the coast. The northern stream is coming down. It's not that different from the GFS. The difference lies, I think, that the European seems to hold on to the storm as a separate identifiable feature a little longer than the GFS does, because ultimately you start to see that upper low over Maine by Friday morning just completely takes it over, and then it all gets kicked out. And the same outcome here with that northerly flow in the upper atmosphere coming right down into the Northeast and down into the mid-Atlantic states, just really nice DRY type of air, dry, taking over with low dew points and reasonable temperatures. Usually around most years around the Memorial Day weekend, you do get something.
Labor Day.
Labor Day holiday weekend. I always do that. Usually around the Labor Day holiday weekend, you do, in more often than not, you do get something coming down in the northern jet, as it begins to wake up and realize that summer is winding down. And the European, by the way, at least through day 10, look at this trough this is on Labor Day, overwhelming the Northeast on Monday into Tuesday. And here comes another one. And by the way, on the lower right, you will see what is probably going to be the L storm, the system that's moving off the African coast. And interestingly enough, Joe, and I'm just putting this on the table. Interestingly enough, the European has actually come considerably south and west on this run. although if you look at this upper air with this, if the upper air part of the United States is real, you've got this almost what I would refer to as a broad bowl of a flow coming out of Canada. This sort of gentle going from northwest to west southwest off the east coast. So if this part of it is real, then you would conclude that whatever is out here would probably come close to Bermuda and then recurve out. But I have to wonder, because we've seen this happen before where the models have shown these sort of overwhelming troughs coming into the east this summer only to pull back as we get closer in time. What if this next trough is not as deep and kind of hangs a little bit further to the west, and maybe the westerlies aren't as far south as being indicated on the current run? That
You
might
are you
that
you're
might
looking at
that might make
yeah
for a slightly different outcome. So anyway,
yes.
just sort of mentioning it there. I mean, anytime you see troughing in the east during hurricane season, you always want to have, you always want to pay a little bit of attention to it, because in the long range, especially when you start going out past 6 or 7 days and you look at the upper air, there's a fairly good chance that while it might have the general idea, the specifics may turn out to be a bit different than what the model is showing right now.
I brought up the and I have it again on share here. The what we all refer to on television as the future cast, but this is the RPM model.
All right.
And I thought it might be interesting to roll that along for the next 72 hours.
Back to you.
This is the 21Z, or based upon the 21Z data, the 5 p.m. data that was inputted into the RPM. So we start now. This is as of 0Z this evening. Again, this was just a little while ago. This is a couple hours ago. So if I start everything in motion, we'll show you that area, that thin front dries out as it moves through, and we're into a nice, relatively dry day for tomorrow, and enjoy it with a bit lower humidity. Now, here comes Ida. Here comes the remnants of Ida. There's all that heavy-duty rain aiming for central sections of Pennsylvania. Where is this now? Stopping the clock. This is 2:30 in the morning on. This is 2021-09. Okay, so this is 2:30 in the morning on Thursday, and you can see all of this is what, Joe? I guess this is what in the purple.
Yeah.
I can never tell. I'm trying to see here. Sleet, ice, rain. Well, let's just assume that this is all heavy stuff. I can't even read some of these this legend, this graphic here. But this is 2:30 in the morning, and this is 3 o'clock, 4 a.m., 5 a.m. Now look, it looks like the at least on this run of the RPM, they're trying to take the real heavy duty stuff from northwestern Jersey on up toward Albany, or north of Kingston. We see some heavy stuff here, and now we continue here. This is 7 a.m. on Thursday morning. This is 8 a.m., 9 a.m., 10 a.m. So I mean, this model has the heaviest of the activity moving on through again in the pre-dawn hours. But again, it seems that this run wants to concentrate the really, really heavy duty stuff way north and west of New York City on up toward Albany. And then as you continue here and move it, that's as far as it can go, 72 hours. So that would be 5 p.m. on Thursday or thereabouts. Yeah, like that. I mean, supposedly there may still be some lingering stuff around even into the afternoon on Thursday. But again, the really hefty stuff passes on by in the, again, pre-dawn hours into the early part of the day on Thursday. Again, from the remnants of Ida, it's a little bit more progressive and a little bit faster than, again, what we just saw with the European.
By the way, tonight's poll the question is that so far we have had 11 named storms in the month. I'm sorry, for the season. 6 of those have come during this month of August. Will we break 20 for the season? That is the poll question tonight. 131 votes. 66% of the folks say yes, we will break 20. And 35% say no, we will not break 20. So in order for us to do it, we got to do it. We got all of September and all of October, and certainly September through the first half of October can be very busy. And past performance is no guarantee of future results, but sometimes that's the only thing you have to look at. And well, I mean, it's been very active. And we're going to get another name. We're going to probably have another name storm with that wave coming off the African coast, which I'll show you in a bit. So we'll see. But that's the poll result, 65-35. So somebody just probably a couple people with the no votes. Back to now 66-34. 86 likes on the show tonight so far. Thank you very much for those of you who have hit the like button. And let's see if we can tally it up over 100 before we're all said and done. So I'm going to go back to, let's go back to the models here.
Well, hold on before that, John. I just want to answer a chat board comment by Fled Weather. Gnashing of gnashing.
I saw that. I was going to mention it. I forgot.
Gnashing of teeth and wailing. Joe Chaffee for us snow lovers using a standard 10-to-1 snow ratio. This would be a widespread, enormous 25 to 70-inch snowstorm. Imagine if it was winter. Well, if it were winter, Fled, and I'm sure Joe has answered this question. The news anchor, when we used to do the weather at the anchor desk, and the news anchor in a situation like this returned to us.
If all of this would have been snow,
how much snow would we have gotten? And the true answer to that question is it's not what you think, because if it were winter, there would be no way that we would have all this moisture available to us, because in the winter it is so much colder. In the winter, because of that much colder air does not have the same amount of capacity to hold on to all of that moisture. So with colder weather, you would not see this much moisture available to turn into snow. It would probably be, I would say half or maybe even a third as much precipitation available. And so that kind of would bring the 25 to 70 inch snow down to more like maybe 8 or 10 to, maybe 10 to 30 inches if we had but it would not be the extremes that you're talking about, because it just can't happen. You just cannot have all the moisture that we're looking at for this impending remnant of a tropical cyclone, because during the wintertime, again, with the colder air, the air just couldn't hold all of that much moisture, as opposed to now when we're in the throes of summertime and the heat and humidity, and we have all that capacity to hold that moisture.
But snow lovers can always dream.
70 inches, Joe?
No, I know that's for the world of lake effect. That's a whole different phenomena. So here's how the GFS handles this on the surface this evening, and you can see the low moving into northern Alabama, then eventually into southern West Virginia. You have the height of the northwest up north of Lake Superior starting to sort of press down. That low in southern Virginia at 0Z Thursday, and then right over Chesapeake Bay. Again, this look here on this run today, more like the European, not quite with that circular look. It's also a little faster. The low is off the New Jersey coast by Thursday morning, and then the precip goes out. It's already ended across Pennsylvania and most of western New Jersey. It's ended in Maryland. It's ended in Delaware, and then it moves on out. But if the European is right in the idea that this maintains a bit of a tropical identity for a longer period of time because the features aloft stay a bit more separate, then you might have you might have a little bit of a different outcome, and probably in the sense that you would finish with rainfalls at the higher end of the ranges. Although if you look at the GFS, I mean, at 6Z Thursday morning, this is supposed to be what the radar looks. It's pouring over all of New Jersey, New York City, Long Island, Connecticut, the Hudson Valley, all the way up to the almost all the way up to Albany, to Rhode Island, and into southeastern Mass. I'm just going to bring up the precip, total accumulated precip here, and the purple. These shadings are awfully hard to read, but the darkest purple is 5.5 to 6 inches. So that would be that what looks like that bullseye somewhere between Altoona and Harrisburg. But I mean, it's every bit of 3 to 4 inches across New Jersey, Long Island, Lower Hudson Valley, and Connecticut on the GFS. So, look, the bottom line is we have a flash flood watch up. It's going to be it's going to be 2 to 4 inches of rain everywhere, and certainly it's possible that we could go above that 4 number, and some places will wind up with 5 or 6. The ground is completely saturated, still from the rains of Henri, so we're going to get flash flooding. there's going to be flooding issues. I mean, there's no question about that.
No question.
Yeah, and afterwards, at least as you said, Joe, the payoff is going to be a good one, because once this is done, with the northwest flow dominating things, it really there's not going to be much tropical moisture to tap in the atmosphere. I just kind of sucked it all out, so we should be dry. I think the weekend, on Saturday. Late Saturday, there's some kind of weak front that goes through, and the GFS is picking up with some showers late Saturday afternoon. And then Sunday, mostly dry, and then another front that comes through Sunday night into Monday. But these are minor interruptions if they occur. So Sal Blandino, your heart rate should go, don't let your heart rate go too rapid here, because you're seeing all this, you're seeing this on the GFS. These are minor interruptions, and if you're lucky, they happen while you're fast asleep.
Is Sal Blandino on the board?
No.
All right.
No, but he's been leaving me frantic messages of panic. As I told you, he said he rescheduled his haircut appointment for tomorrow, which is a wise thing to do, because if you're going to have a big rainstorm, you really do want to have the right hair for it. Here is, by the way, the tropical weather outlook on the Hurricane Center. It's not often that you see them actually giving you, and this is going back to yesterday, they were already showing a 70 to 80% probability of development in the next 5 days for a wave that hadn't even moved off the coast yet. But now that it has just moved off the coast, and when we're talking about moves off the coast, it's like an 8.5 north and about 15 west. So it's pretty far out there. But they have a 70% probability of a depression developing in the next 48 hours and a 90% probability in the next 5 days. And let's take a look at the satellite loop, because we will be able to see out there on the angle. And there it is on the lower right. Is that, I mean, this is a huge wave that's coming off, and there's one behind it too. So that's a big tropical wave and a developing low pressure. There's already I believe there's already a surface low there. So there's a broad low that's moved offshore. So once it gets out far enough, it starts to tighten. We'll probably see them make this a depression. If that doesn't happen tomorrow, I would think it would probably have Wednesday or Thursday. Should be something out there. Meanwhile, north and west of there, you could see the Tropical Storm Kate, which is a very sheared-looking cyclone. I mean, you can see the low-level circulation, but there is strong shear over it, because all the thunderstorms and convection are just getting blown off to the east side. So that'll hang around for a little while and maybe drift northward. They got it actually strengthening in a couple of days if the center holds together. And also keep an eye on the Southwest Caribbean, because something is going to try to go there again. But the question will be, if something does develop in the Southwest Caribbean, does it go over land or does it stay out over the open waters? So that's going to be the critical question. And the Hurricane Center does have a 10% chance in the next 2 days, and they have a 20% chance in the next 5. Also, I think this is a good place, I think, but to bring something up with regards to.
And what happened to Julian? Julian lasted, what, 6 hours?
Yeah, Julian came and went. Julian just came and went over the weekend.
See, this is why
we're
going to
tropical storm, and I thought they had it at 50 miles an hour, I think, or maybe even a little higher. I don't remember because I didn't get even a chance to look. I woke up, I went to bed. It was a tropical. They had just made it a tropical storm. I went to bed, and the next morning, when I woke up and I looked at the map, it was gone. It was just totally gone. So I guess they made it extra tropical.
This is why we're going to get 20 names, because if you have storms like Julian that come and go like that, the heck. I mean, that'll be easy to make 20 with storms like that, Joe.
Right.
And by the way, the one that's coming off the African coast now is likely to be Larry. And I don't think we had a Mo or a Curly on the list this year, but Larry is out there, or will be out there soon.
Yes. Now, James Harris, who is a regular here on the board, and he sent me something that. Well, anyway, here's where I was just about to go. I think this is a good opportunity, Joe, to acknowledge the fact that this Ida was really exceptionally well forecasted. I mean, all the way around, up and down, everything, the rapid strengthening, the track, all of it. The Hurricane Center did a phenomenal job, I believe, with handling this, and really kind of, if they didn't do it in the public, if they did it early on, the hints were there in the formative stages of what was really running through their minds. And of course, you and I, we talked about this when we had our first show after a short break last week on Thursday. And the first things we acknowledged was the fact that the system, when it was in its formative stages, was going to be a powerhouse. I mean, it just really looked everything, the upper air, all of it. It was all there on the table, and I think the Hurricane Center did a great job. Now, USA Today put this. This was on Twitter. Now, if you're going to compliment somebody, can you please, at very least, do it in a way that doesn't come off looking like clickbait? Thanks, James, for pointing that out, by the way, because that part didn't occur to me. Now, it's small. I'm going to see if I can just blow this up a little bit, make it a little. No, it's not helping me. All it's doing is blowing up the page. But there's a USA Today tweet that starts off with this question. Did Ida's more rapid than expected growth catch meteorologists off guard? And then underneath it says, quote from USA Today saying, well, I don't want to hit them too hard on this, because they were, at the end of the day, they are complimenting the forecasters, saying Hurricane Ida's strength may have seemed surprising, but not to forecasters. And that part of it is correct. I understand that you have to write things in order to get people to click on it, so I'll be forgiving this time, because after now that I'm thinking about it, okay, it's not so bad, but try to make it a little less clickbaitish next time.
By the way, did you notice? I put it on my Facebook page that the Farmer's Almanac.
Yes, forecasted, I did.
The Farmer's Almanac had predicted for the 28th through the 31st of August hurricane threat. Admittedly, they were one state off. They said Texas and Louisiana. Should have been, of course, Louisiana and Mississippi. But still, they had a threat of a hurricane mentioned in the Farmer's Almanac for this time frame, and sure enough, it happened. Of course, you could say they were lucky, or you could say that a broken clock is correct twice a day or whatever. But regardless, they called for a hurricane at this time of the year down in Louisiana, or at least the threat of one, and they did get it. Not the old Farmer's Almanac, but the Farmer's Almanac, the slightly younger version, which I think the old Farmer's Almanac came out in 1792, and the the Farmer's Almanac has been published since 1818. So they're not quite as old as the old Farmer's Almanac, but they got it right. So let's give them credit. Hooray.
Hooray. Yes. Hooray. Now, we have an interesting question here. I'm trying to find the map that I had used. So just give me a moment here. But David Scott.
Yes.
David Scott says, interesting question. If another cyclone follows into the Gulf of Mexico in the next 10 days, is the upwelling from Ida that would prevent deep strengthening? Okay, so let me just pull the map up before I answer that question. I just got to find it. Good Lord. No, that's not it. Sea surface temperature anomalies. Sea surface temperature contour charts. Oh, here we go. Hang on. Gulf of Mexico. So let's go to. Okay, now here, very interesting on this map. I'm going to bring it right up, and I'm also going to bring up if I still have it, which I think I do, the sea surface temperatures going into Ida. I just have to find it. It's here somewhere. And let's see. Yep, there it is. Okay, so here we go. So going into this weekend with Ida, we had the Gulf of Mexico water temperature profile like this. And we talked about this last Friday, that there was this big warm eddy in the eastern Gulf of Mexico. You can see the yellowish area there that was all 86 degree plus water tracked right over it. Now, at the time, I had the arrow near Grand Isle, so obviously the landfall wound up being further to the west, and also pointing out that the Gulf of Mexico water temperatures at the along the coast, were up close to 90 degrees, and that indeed proved to be important because it entered that shelf. When it entered that shelf, that's when that explosive deepening happened, where it took the pressure down from 967 millibars down to 929 in about 15 hours time. So that was because of the fact that it went into that warm shelf. Now, in the central, right at the bottom of the picture, where you see the purple and the blue, that was the upwelling that was caused by Hurricane Grace. And if you remember, Grace became a major hurricane in the Southwest Gulf, in the days preceding Ida. But the upwelling was confined to the Southwest Gulf and the areas in and around the Yucatan Peninsula, which Ida didn't come anywhere close to. Now, take a look at what's happened to the water temperatures today in that warm eddy. They are now, they've dropped considerably. The 29-degree isotherm, as opposed to it being the 30-degree isotherm, and that the water inside of that on the other picture was warmer. You could see it here, that the yellows was higher than 86. So now you have the reverse on this picture. This was all upwelled. And you'll notice that the shelf water is not quite as warm. It is, dropped a few degrees, and we're going to give this another day to catch up. Meanwhile, you still have residual cooling and upwelling there along the north coast. The water temperatures are warm, but they're not, they're down, a few degrees Celsius, which can make the difference between a Category 2 and a Category 4, or even a Category 2 and a Category 3.
Right.
And the waters in the western Gulf are all above 30, okay? Because the upwelling, the storm didn't track there. Ida did not track in this area, so the water here not quite as upwelled, and is very, very warm. So what you can say is that if you were to get a tropical storm to come in the next 5 days, it might struggle a bit. Let's assume that the upper air conditions are favorable for strengthening. The water temperatures would probably cause it to struggle a bit until, if it were to go into the eastern Gulf. I mean, clearly, then it would probably struggle. But if you get something that winds up going toward the western Gulf and going toward the Texas coast, you'll probably have you could still wind up with something that could deepen. Not that we have anything headed there. I really didn't look too closely at the long range, but it didn't seem like there was much. It looks like there was something that was going to try. Maybe the system in the Southwest Caribbean winds up eventually going into the Northwest Gulf, but the models didn't seem to develop it very much. But nonetheless, the water temperatures in the Western Gulf are very, very warm, and they did not get upwelled. It's the whole Eastern Gulf now. Now, it probably will. That water can warm up very quickly. So we could look at this 3 or 4 days from now and see a much warmer profile. But it is going to take about a week for this water to probably get back to where it was, or get close to where it was.
Right. You just answered the question that was posted on the chat board by John Charles. How long does it take for the water to get warm again? And I would agree. For at least a week or so, if not a little bit more. And by that time, certainly I don't expect any kind of tropical cyclone to make its way into that area for at least another week or 10 days. So who's to say? Maybe a week or 10 days from now, maybe not quite as warm as it was over this past weekend, but certainly warm enough to again become problematic. So we'll see. Who knows? Larry is out there. Maybe Larry in about 10 days will take aim at the Gulf, or maybe, Joe, as you were talking about a half an hour ago, if the trough is not properly positioned, maybe Larry will take a track north of Puerto Rico and make a run at the Atlantic seaboard. We don't know. It's many days ahead of us.
Yeah, Craig Carlberg, he says at least 2 to 3 weeks is a little long. You'd be surprised how quickly the water in the Gulf of Mexico will calm down and warm up. It warms up pretty fast. I try to remember which storm it was. I don't know if it was Harvey. It might have been Harvey, which really upwelled the water temperatures in a big way in the Western Gulf, because it was such a slow moving storm. The water temperatures were almost back to normal within a week. So after Harvey disappeared, so it can warm up a lot faster than you think. So we'll check back on that in a couple of days. I'll try to make a mental note. Maybe I should write it down, because mental notes these days don't work with me too well. We'll maybe come back in 3 or 4 days and take a look at the water temperatures and see what's the impacts, if the impacts of the upwelling have lessened. So I think that pretty well covers everything tonight. I don't think we left anything out. Do you?
No, we've been going for about an hour and 11 minutes, and we've picked up 116 likes. So
beautiful.
I think we've done a good job tonight in the aftermath of Ida. Not the aftermath for us. Ida is still on its way, so we'll see what happens. I guess now tomorrow is the regular time.
Regular time.
All right.
Regular time tomorrow.
So we'll be here at 7:30.
All right, so thanks everybody for being here. All you new viewers, final results of the poll, by the way, 66% say yes, we will break 20 named storms for the season. 34% say no. 162 folks voted. So thank you for participating in the poll. And Joe and I will be back tomorrow night at 7:30 Eastern time, which is usually our regular time. I had some things to do, so thanks for helping me push it back to 9 o'clock, because I definitely did not want to not do the show. You know how much I love doing the show.
It's your life, Joe. You're the king of all media tonight.
It is. It is. Hang on one second. I just want to do one more thing here. And let's see. Is that where? No. Is that? Yes, that's it. So it was, I think it was that one. Here we go. So it's time to, I guess it's okay to change the channel now. Anyway, thanks everybody for being here. As always, most appreciated. If you like the show and you're new, again, welcome. Glad you stuck around to the end. And hit the subscribe button and subscribe to my YouTube channel. You'll get notifications every time Joe and I go on. And that's usually, we're on at least 5 days a week. When there's storms around, we might do 6 or 7.
I want to pull the plug here.
Yeah. Don't you touch that dial. Oops. Did you pull the plug?
No, I did
not. You
not.
pulled the plug. Look at that.
Did I?
You pulled the plug on me. Oh, my God. Oh, I'm going to have to talk to the producers of this show.
Good night, everybody.
Yes. Hold on. Wait a second. Let me just get, now we can say nighty-night.
Nighty-night, folks.